Hi guys, so it's been a while since I've last made a video. Probably it's been a month and a half since the last video, and there were quite a few things, too much work and quite a few fish keeping problems, and today I will actually talk about one of these problems. You will probably notice that our display tank looks a bit different from what it used to be. So now it's basically half full and it's a Riparium. So the reason why I created this setup is because I had problems with the sump. This system has a sump in it, and down there is a sump which I was using for filtration. And at some point I started having problems with the control valve inside the sump, So it's basically a pipe that controls the flow of water from the tank into the sump. And the problem with the valve was that it didn't control anything, so it didn't regulate the flow, and the water was just pouring down into the sump, and the sound was just excruciating. It was incredibly loud in this room, almost impossible to sit in this room because of the sound of water just flowing and pouring down the sump. And so I couldn't find a similar control valve in order to replace it, and it's really bothersome to actually remove all the pipe work and find something similar. So I had two options: either to empty this tank and possibly buy another tank, or try to replace the valve, or to use it half full as a Riparium. So I went for this option. I had a lot of doubts because I had to remove all the large fish from this tank. We used to have discus here before, and yeah, basically the only large fish we used to have here are discus, and they had to be removed. So now this tank functions as a Riparium, so it's half full, and it has this on the surface above the water plant growth. And I actually started to enjoy it quite a lot as compared to before. And so previously this used to be a tank with a lid because I had discus in it, and discus are jumpers. Now it's an open top tank. Actually this tank is designed to be open top. It's not designed to be covered with a lid. And we have quite a selection of riparian plants growing here, immersed. The fish population had to be reduced in numbers, and I'll take you through the current stocking of this fish tank, and I'll take you through the plants, but I will also leave the list of the plants in the description of the video. So let's get going. Originally this used to be 460 liter system, including the sump, which is about 120 US gallons. Now, well, I'm not using the sump anymore for filtration. Sump is empty down there. I'm using a canister filter, Fluval 06, for filtration. Also, I'm using two wavemaker pumps, one larger in here to create flow, and one smaller in there. It's hidden, so you can't really see it. And apparently now it probably holds about 200 liters of water. I haven't measured. I would guess that this is a amount of water it currently holds. In terms of population, I'll start with the population because that's the easiest part to talk about. We have here a group of Brochis, emerald Brochis, Brochis splendens. We also have here a mixed group of tetras. There are Serpa tetras, there are black skirt tetras, and there are ornate Bentasi tetras. And we used to have these tetras before with discus, and they just stayed in here. So that's it about the population. So it's not particularly heavily stocked, and I will probably add more corridors in here just to populate the bottom, but in terms of population, definitely I can't really add anything else because there's not much water in here, and I can't add any larger fish in here. So the main point of focus in this setup are the plants, are the riparian plants. I don't have any aquatic plants. Actually, I have here a bit of Java moss, but that's it in terms of aquatic plants. Here in the center I have this pile of rocks. It's a mixture of lava rock, it's a mixture of slate rock and some driftwood to create this sort of a hillside, this coastal area of a river. I wanted to imitate a fast flowing river, so you can see that there is a relatively strong wavemaker pump working in here and creating this flow, because Brochis really enjoys this flow, and in general corridors they enjoy flow. And over here I've created a sort of a island, a sort of kind of a surface area. So basically this is a piece of flat driftwood covered with Java moss. It's partly holding on another piece of driftwood and partly is attached by this suction cup. In addition to Java moss, I have added some Sphagnum moss in here and some Phytonia plants in there. Not sure whether Phytonia will grow in this setup. They seem to be doing fine for now, but I'm not really sure whether they will like this sort of setup. Right, so I get a lot of questions. How do I actually attach all these riparian plants to my tanks? And there's no single answer really. Currently most of these plants are sitting on top of driftwood, so I just put them on top of driftwood. I ensure that their roots are down in water, or at least partially down in the water. And yeah, so basically that's how they are fixed in here. Some plants over there, they are attached with suction cups to the glass, and that's how they are attached. For example, that golden pothos and that spathiphyllum peace lily, they are attached with a suction cup to the glass. Other plants, for example, this chestnut plant and this fern, they are actually in pots, in coconut pots, and these pots are staying on top of the driftwood. Probably later on I will buy larger coconut pots in order to plant them in the case of fern. It doesn't really like to be submerged. It doesn't like to have its roots underwater, so the roots of the fern, they actually have to be in very wet soil, but they shouldn't be submerged. In terms of this chestnut plant, to be honest, I don't really know, but I assume that it doesn't like its roots underwater, so I'm keeping it in a pot. But you can't really see these pots because they're hidden. So the other thing that I've done to hide the roots of these plants is adding sphagnum moss on top of the driftwood. So I've got quite a lot of there were 2 liters of sphagnum moss, and I added this sphagnum moss on the sides of driftwood to create this kind of a shoreline and kind of a riverside effect. Okay, in terms of equipment, as I've said, I'm using a fluval canister filter for filtration. It's actually filled with some Sikkim matrix and sponges of different density, mostly for mechanical filtration. 2 wave maker pumps, a heater. I keep the temperature at about 25 degrees Celsius. I don't really want to keep it too warm because of bronchitis, and most of these tetras, they don't like particularly warm water either. And I have here 4 LED lamps. Actually there are 2 major LED lamps back there. These are just regular LED lamps. They're no brand LED lamps. This one is a spotlight lamp from IKEA, and I use it just to have this kind of a bright type of spotlight effect on this island, and it just turns on in the evening. Most of the time it's off. Yeah, so that's it in terms of equipment really. It's a relatively low energy setup. Yeah, of course there are quite a bit of lights in here, but these are LED lights, so they don't take up too much energy. And yeah, the water is relatively cool, 24-25 degrees Celsius, and I do water changes once per week, about 30% of the total volume. Let me know what do you think about this setup, whether it is more better looking than the previous one, and I will certainly be making more videos now, and there will be another video about the other tank that we have, also a Riparium, and a much more mature setup with lots of riparian plants and lots of surface plants, and this video will be released quite soon. So see you soon.